Hello everyone and welcome to the Mustard Seeds Community Forum. This is our pre-Christmas event. As you know, at the Mustard Seed it takes a village, and you can see half of them behind me here. We are gathered today to introduce Carolyn Benepe, who has just joined the Mustard Seed recently. She's an expert in nutrition, a registered dietitian, and as you will find, an informal comedian. There are two F words that may be heard around. One of them we don't use here at the Mustard Seed, and that is the word facility. Our assisted living and memory care homes are just that. They are homes for people to enjoy. The F word that we do use frequently here at the Mustard Seed, especially in the kitchen, is fiber. And Carolyn is going to tell us all about fiber. And with that, I will pass the baton over to Carolyn. Welcome.
Thanks, Maureen. Well, my name's Carolyn Benepe, and I joined the Mustard Seed October 3rd. And I couldn't be happier about that. This is a great opportunity for me, and hopefully I will bring some good things to the Mustard Seed. But one of the things that we wanted to do right now is have a little bit of an introduction so that you know who's making these food decisions. And it reminds me of when I was the nutrition director at the Sheridan Senior Center. I'd been there for a while, and one of the gals comes up to me, I think she's coming to say hello or something, gets up real close and says, "What's with all the damn broccoli?" So, I want to give you guys a little bit of background so you understand what's with the broccoli or the bread or the fiber for that matter, and a little bit of a history of how I learned about food. First of all, I was born in Minnesota, born and raised, good place. Oldest of 3 daughters. My dad was at my restaurant at one point and was talking to some customers and told them that he taught me everything I knew about cooking. And I looked at him sideways, and he was like, "As soon as you were tall enough," I said, "You're the cook." So that's how I got started, making lots of food, hamburger hot dish when I was young, and had some great influences. Got to hang out on a farm during the summer, and so I had fresh from the garden food, and that was probably the thing that I tried to emulate the most. So when I got done, well, even before I got done with school, I started in the food business as a waitress, like we all do, and moved from waitressing to cooking, got in the back of the house, and I've got a prop here to show you. So eventually, I owned my own restaurant, and it was just a lunch place, which is kind of ironic, because now we'll probably be serving lunch here at the Mustard Seed. But at this place called Carolyn's, we served lunch Monday through Friday. I was just a young mom, 28, 30 years old. So were the other people working with me. We got up early, baked the bread, made the soups, made the salads. It was one of those everything from scratch places before there was a Subway. So very popular, and I learned a lot there. I learned about how to produce meals consistently day after day. I learned how to order groceries from our local grocer. And we're hoping to replicate that here in Key Center and be working with our food market in trying to get the groceries for the village as well as for the Mustard Seed, because I like to keep it local. I learned a lot about teamwork. Oh my goodness, all those people in and out of the kitchen, and some about keeping the customer happy. That's the thing in the food business. business, in restaurant business, you're always trying to stay new, stay interesting. It wears on you, gotta say. But we were very popular and kept this place going, and then I moved into having a bakery, and well, that one, as I put it in the paper, I made a lot of dough, but not a lot of money. So it's at that point that I left the food business behind, but I made a little cookbook. And this is called The Best of the Bankrupt Bakery. And this was in fact the most profitable thing I made during that time. Lots of fun. This was back when I cooked with plenty of cream and butter. But some of these things I still use, and some of the people in Sheridan still use this cookbook all the time, or so they tell me. So after I left that business, I went back to school and took nutrition classes, had to start from the get-go and take a lot of chemistry. Oh man. That's what nutrition is. It isn't so much about food, it's about how your body uses the food. Okay? And so we didn't talk about pork chops or meatloaf. We talked about vitamin C and iron and how these things made their way through the body and how much of it we needed at certain ages, and it wasn't quite what I expected. I was also the foods lab instructor since I had some background, and I was surprised that most of the people studying nutrition really didn't know anything about cooking. So this seemed like a good thing for me to put together, this nutrition science and this cooking piece. And the other thing that I did when I was in school was I learned about cooperative extension. And maybe you're aware of that. That's something that happens in every state that has a land-grant university. But they come out from the university and do their teaching. So dietitians or nutrition people were talking about recipes and how to can and how to keep your food and things like that, cooperative extension. And I thought that might be where I wanted to work. The other thing that I did when I was in school was I started getting involved with soup kitchens, and was on the board of directors for a soup kitchen and was also the cook for a soup kitchen. And that taught me a lot, not just about how to get along with people that might be a little bit on the edge, but also how to make food without the right ingredients. I'd walk in, I'd see lots of noodles, some hamburger, and we got 5 pounds of, sour cream and a bunch of old mushrooms. I was like, I'm gonna make beef stroganoff. But that was a nice way to bust out of recipes, being tied to a recipe. So that really opened up the way I thought about food. So after I finally graduated, it took a long time, I went down to Fort Collins and went to graduate school and to be a registered dietitian, which is a very dry name for what we do. I really don't like that it has the word diet in it, because diets are not the way to go. The new term these days is a nutritionist. So I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, a food person. And you really could take 3 different paths as a dietitian. You could go into food service, I've been there. You can go into clinical nutrition, which means that you're working in a hospital and you're working with patients and you're working with folks that have diabetes and you're all ages, that medical aspect. And then there's this 3rd path, which is community nutrition. And that's what I really loved. That meant kind of where the rubber meets the road. And so I decided to go into community nutrition and got hired right away cooperative extension in Wyoming. So that made me super happy. And I was going to mention, when I was in graduate school, one of the things that I studied and did my research on was connecting with local foods. So I worked with schools and hospitals and restaurants, finding out how they could connect with local foods. And that's what we're hoping to do here too. We want to connect with the local foods that are grown around the Key Peninsula and the farmers that can supply us and have the freshest food possible. So one of the things when I graduated was people thought a dietitian was really the food police. Right? Carmen Miranda, maybe? Food police. All right. So people would like hide their grocery carts from me when I'd see them in the grocery store, right? Or they'd like, oh, I gotta lose a little, and they'd move away from me. And so the food police isn't what I wanted to be at all. I wanted to represent healthy principles. And that's where I borrowed the work that we did in Wyoming to create the Win Washington, or the Wellness in Washington principles. And just, I think you can see this on your screen, these are the headings, but the first one is principles of body size diversity and size acceptance. Now that might not be something that you're accustomed to hearing, but this is what I believe in. And I believe that you can be healthier at every size, that we should not be determining people's health by their size. We should be celebrating as a positive characteristic that we come in all different shapes and sizes. And we can value every body, no matter what their size and shape. Another thing is to accept that there is no ideal body size, shape, or weight that every individual should strive to. There is no real Barbie. So, it's really important to understand that what we see in the media, in fashion, in movies, these aren't real people. These are Photoshopped people. And once you're onto them, you can maybe pull away a little bit from that influence, okay? It's important to help people feel good about their bodies and who they are. This helps motivate them to be healthier behaviors because they have self-esteem. And it's also important to recognize that each person is responsible for taking care of their own body. So when I work with people that maybe they're interested in being a little more fit, I can give recommendations, but it's really up to them. And then the other thing is to define good health as a state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, not as a function of body size. So it takes a little while maybe to wrap your head around that idea, but I love it. And I think that that's how I like to greet the different people that I meet through my day. Another important principle is the principle of active living. Right? Use it, move it, and find something that you enjoy doing. It's part of an everyday lifestyle, even for us folks like well over 60. We need to have those physical activities. I think it's just as important as it is for kids, for us at this age, to make sure that we have our physical activity. And the word play comes up, that we should play every day. I play a lot with my computer some days, but I don't think that's what they have in mind. Another principle is the principle of pleasurable and healthful eating. So food they, how's it go? Eat to live. Like, doesn't matter, whatever it is, I'll eat it. Just need something for fuel. And other people live to eat, right? Like, oh, for lunch, I'm having, right? But either way, it's important to honor the gift of our food, to think about who was involved in growing it, to think about where it's come from. Especially if you eat local, it's nice to make those connections. Take pleasure in eating, slow down, maybe step away and just focus on your food and take pleasure in eating that food. Following the principles of my plate, that's our most recent iteration of a pyramid or a plate or whatever we call it, but that balanced nutrition. And finally, taking control of your eating by listening to hunger cues. Now, that's like, oh, I think I'm hungry. And I'm going to be looking for something to eat here, instead of waiting far too long until you're ravenous and you're going to eat anything that comes off the counter. It works on the other side too. You can stop eating when you're pleasantly full, or you can get Thanksgiving full every time and have some problems with probably your weight after being Thanksgiving full all the time. So learning about satiety cues and how to pay attention to those. And lastly, it's the positive self-image and recognizing that healthy bodies come in every range of age, shape, and size, that you can identify your strengths and your abilities and build on your assets. Challenge your own size prejudice beliefs. I know I had some when I started, and I still have to watch myself. My best friend is under 5 feet tall, and she's an adult. She doesn't need me to walk her across the street, but those size things come up, right? So challenge your prejudices too. Be critical about the messages that focus on unrealistic body shapes. And finally, take time for yourself every day. So this is what I build my nutrition and food advice around, rather than that food police idea. One of the things that I started after I got my job, I worked for Cooperative Extension, and then I moved over to the Sheridan Senior Center. And that reminds me a lot of the mustard seed, because I'm going to get a chance to cook for you cool people. And I learned a lot from Sheridan. I worked at a senior center. We served 400 people a day, 400 meals a day, 365 days a year. And I learned from my dear friends that I made what a big difference a meal can make. And that's what I'm looking forward to bringing here, is a home delivered meals program that can reach into individual lives with a good meal 5 days a week. I don't think we're going 365. But that can keep people healthy longer than just about anything. If it's a meal that has a lot of variety from one day to the next and shows up at your doorstep, it can really make a difference. And it's not just for the people that maybe can't afford to make that meal. It's also for the people that no longer have that skill set. They just can't maneuver in the kitchen anymore. Or maybe they can't drive to go get the groceries. Or maybe it's a tough time and they just can't muster up the goods to make those meals. Or maybe they're a caregiver and their time is very taken with being a caregiver, and they need a meal as well as the person that they're caring for. So home delivered meals, or say you're going to get a new knee. Well, you're going to be out of it for a few days. Knees are fast, but you're still not going to cook for a few days. Well, you recover quickly from it. Or it is. It's way better than it used to be. But you're not much of a cook during that time. This is when home delivered meals can really make a difference for you. Okay? So once we get this up and running, I'm going to spread the word and try and get as many people involved as choose to be throughout the KP. So that Sheridan Senior Center, I learned a lot there. Oh, I learned about people's likes and dislikes. I learned that right there at that same meal table, one person was going to love it, and the other person across the way, not so much. And so I had to make my decisions based on one leg standing in good nutrition and the other leg standing in something delicious. It has to be delicious and nutritious. And so I wasn't going to make everybody's favorite food every day, but it was going to come up often enough, and those seniors learned to trust me that something like fruit pizza was going to be okay. And even that gal that didn't like broccoli, she ended up eating broccoli craisin salad. So I worked with them. And the other thing that I did when I was in Sheridan is I created these menu projects for the entire state because our menus were really good in Sheridan. And so the senior centers of Wyoming asked me to do this project, and with help, we got this out to all the different senior centers. And this is 5 weeks, a 5-week menu cycle. So lots of good ideas, lots of recipes built and tested for 50 people, and all that good stuff shared throughout the state. So I'm coming with lots of ideas. And I know Wyoming people eat more beef than Washington, probably. But I'm looking forward to getting to learn if there's other differences too. So I left Wyoming in 2016. And I came to Washington. And this is where you wear a raincoat all the time. This is my new coat, right? Man, rain everywhere. And I worked as a clinical dietitian. So I worked at Western State Hospital, and I got to meet a lot of different patients and work one-on-one with them. I did a lot of nutrition education about fiber, right? This is what they liked. So when I teach about fiber, I talk about we need fiber in our diet because we have to keep things moving, okay? And in fact, our intestines are not this big, but we gotta move things. That's right? That's a long way to move it. And certain kinds of foods help move you along. Okay? And that's one of the things I love about teaching about food. You get to use so many different props. One of the other things that I have, so let's talk about fiber for a second, as we said we would. One of the things that you look at when you look at fiber is where are the best sources? Okay? So let's look at an apple. There's a little apple. There's 3 grams of fiber in that apple. Okay? Pretty good source. Here's some apple sauce. Right? Only about ½ gram of fiber in apple sauce. Here's apple juice. Nada. Almost. No, there is no fiber in here. So when you say, oh, I ate a fruit today, I drank some juice. Not so much. Whole fruit is where it is where it's at. Because that's giving you the fiber, all the nutrients, and some of this is moving a little too fast and moving your blood sugars too high. Okay? So part of what I do is I talk about fiber because I like to talk about how to eat when you have diabetes. And fiber is really your friend. And here's another iteration of apple. There's no fiber in here. This is the opposite. This takes you in the other direction. I think that pie crust negates any fiber that might have been happening. So this is this funny rubber food that I have. I love it because it's great for teaching. These are serving sizes. And that's something that has really gotten away from people. So one of the ways that I use rubber food, say for instance, as an older adult, we can't eat as much food as we used to. Darn it. Right? This would be a meal. We got pork chops, a baked potato, a little salad. Maybe we're going to have our pie. If I were in my 20s, I could eat all that food and be hungry in a couple hours. Right? I was very active at that point. And could eat 2,200 calories a day, easy. Now, maybe 1,800. So we have to make choices as older adults. What matters in this meal, okay? And that's what I try and talk to people about. Get the foods that are the most nutrient dense. Every bite counts for something. My breadstick, not so much, right? Not going to count. I'm not even going to really want to keep my peas and my corn because that's so starchy, okay? I would rather have a vegetable like broccoli, my broccoli gal, because this doesn't have so much starch and yet it's loaded with vitamins A and C. I like my baked potato okay. I might take out a couple pats of butter, probably, right? And I'm definitely eating the skin. There's that fiber. I've got a pork chop on here. Well, you want to peek? At this point in my life, I'm probably going to trim that fat. It's a lot of flavor, I know, but these are some of the things choices that I'm having to make just because I'm getting older and I love food, but I don't want to supersize myself. So I'm making these choices, getting the nutrients that count and cutting back on some of the calories. Of course, a salad's always a good choice. But instead of my apple pie, I'll probably have some angel food cake with some strawberries. Okay? It's still dessert, but this is a whole lot different makeup than this is rubber food. This is and the strawberries, all those strawberries, that's all the vitamin C you need in one day. And let's run it all the way. It's loaded with fiber. Because all those little seeds are a source of fiber. So one of the things that I do is I like to talk and teach about good food and good food choices, and then come on in the kitchen and make them. And that's one thing that's great about this kitchen that we're building here. We're building it to be a teaching kitchen, so that around this table, I'm envisioning some of our people that like to come to the mustard seed, and that we'll make some food together and some healthy recipes. This time of year, maybe we'll make some healthy soups. All kinds of possibilities. We've got these beautiful ovens. We're going to be baking some good stuff. And that's one of the things that I wanted to, oh, here we are, 1:30. Make mention of, oh, while I still have my raincoat on, I worked at Western, and I also worked at some long-term care sites. And I learned a lot there. Not all, I guess I learned that I am more committed than ever to making our communities as supportive as they can be for our older adults, so that they can stay in their homes and stay in their viable lives as long as possible. And so that's one of the reasons that I jumped at the chance to work at the Mustard Seed, was because this organization is all about keeping people healthy and in their homes and enjoying their later life as much as possible. So I know food has a lot to do with that. One of the things, the other thing that I am really excited about is I came from Sheridan, Wyoming, and when I moved to Vaughan, they were going to have this groundbreaking event. And I had just moved here, and they said, it's going to be a greenhouse project. I was like, what? Because in Sheridan, Wyoming, we built 4 greenhouse homes in long-term care. And I love this model of long-term care. And I had the opportunity to be involved with it from the get-go, and a chance to train some of the staff, and even more beautiful, when my dad was in the latter years of his life, he got to live at a greenhouse home. And so I can appreciate it both as staff and a family member that had their parent there. And so I'm super excited about being involved with the village, and I'm going to get a chance to help get their meals off the ground, share some of my meal ideas, happily support some of the people that are cooking over there to feel confident in cooking for their homes, and work on those menus a little bit to be sure that everybody's getting what they enjoy. So I'll be involved across the street, and then we're looking forward to having people from across the street come here and get involved with what we have going on in the building. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're going to have going on. When I walked in this building for the first time and walked through this kitchen and saw this stainless steel, I put my hand up in the air and said I wanted to be the one that got to cook here. So here it is, dreams come true. And one of the things that I thought when I first saw the kitchen was that this griddle here, this flat top, is just begging for breakfast. And the idea that came out of my mind was, how about brunch someday? And so we're talking about having Monday Fun Day, brunch and bingo. That will be starting up in February, as soon as we get our feet wet. One of the ways that we're going to get our feet wet is using our nice remodeled dining room area and bar area to start a snack bar, a senior snack bar. So that's going to look like easy does it snacks. I'm going to be baking some things in these ovens, some breakfast cookies and muffins. We're going to have what I call a hydration station out there on the bar, and that's going to be coffee and iced tea and infused waters and all kinds of things for folks just to step on up and pour and make a donation in the cup if they'd like. But help yourself to a cup of coffee. Maybe that'll go good with one of those breakfast cookies. Maybe it'll just be all you need to sit down and socialize with a friend of yours. So getting the snack bar open by mid-January in hopes of welcoming the people that live across the street and welcoming the people that are in the community that stop by the Mustard Seed or come by just to see what's happening, right? The other thing, as I've already mentioned, is we're going to work towards that home delivered meals program. And we've had an opportunity to meet with the people at the Key Peninsula Community Services. They do a great program down there and serve a meal Tuesday through Friday. So Mondays were our chance to offer a meal for the community and partner with KPCS and invite everybody our direction. The other way we're going to partner with them is learning about those that got home delivered meals through KPCS, and we can reach out to them since they no longer are doing home delivered meals. We hope to learn about those clients and serve them as well. So one of the things that we're going to look for is volunteers. People that might like to be in the kitchen, people that might like to be behind that bar with the snack bar, welcoming folks and maybe getting them a bowl of oatmeal or a bowl of soup and a slice of bread or some other healthy snack. We also, so that volunteer idea, I'd love to meet anybody that wants to be a volunteer, and we've got a great volunteer coordinator. Her name is Madison. So if you call and say, oh, I want to volunteer, you'll get in touch with Madison, and then I want to meet you as soon as I can.
Is there an age limit?
There's no age limit for volunteers. Yes, there is an age limit for volunteers. There's an age limit of,
18,
oh, you have to be 18.
Thank you.
unless you come with your parent.
Okay, we used to have families that would drive home delivered meals. It was a beautiful thing. Yeah, but that makes sense, Maureen. So yeah, no age limit on the upper end though. Oh no. Just gotta be old enough to be an adult, okay? The other thing, so volunteers, you're more than welcome. Someday, maybe helping back here, throw a hairnet on you or something, and we'll all be good. Oh, because I have aprons. I want to show you. Oh, look, I forgot. I got hats and aprons. Oh, and while I got you, these cute aprons are for sale, right? Mustard seed aprons. But if you come volunteer, we'll put you in an apron. Oh, yeah. The other thing, like I said, we're going to have a chance to have a teaching kitchen here. So getting people involved, and it won't just be me doing that teaching. There's some fine cooks in this area. I met Anne Marie, and she is a great cook and knows how to teach people how to make sushi and all kinds of cool stuff. And when she saw this kitchen, she was like, oh yeah, I'll teach you. So that's my hope is, the more we get things going, the more we'll learn how it can grow and who would like to be involved. I think I've caught up on most of the things that I thought to mention. Do we have any questions?
Well, before we ask for questions from the peanut gallery, Carolyn, I was wondering if you would touch on peanuts and actual nuts and if they're good for you and if they have any of that F word in them.
Oh, nuts. Oh, nuts. Well, actually, nuts are a great subject. There's a couple things about nuts. They're fantastic food source, fiber galore, protein is great. They also have fat in them. Nuts are a tide you over food. Say you're hours from, you're in your car, you're not there yet, you're starving. What are you gonna do? A handful of nuts would probably be one of your best food choices that you can tree nuts, like walnuts, almonds, macadamia nuts, loaded. And so what's different? Peanuts are not nuts. What? It's true. Peanuts are a legume. They're in the pea family. And they're also, they kick up some allergies. Peanuts there are more peanut allergies than nut allergies, but people don't know the difference, so they'll say they're allergic to nuts. And so you just have to assume that they're allergic to peanuts and nuts until you educate them, right? Great food, like I said, but here's the caveat. A handful of nuts, perfect portion. Who stops at a handful of nuts? You gotta hide the can from yourself, okay? And because they're loaded with calories. A handful of walnuts, 200 calories, okay? 3 handfuls of walnuts, 600 calories. I mean, they add up so quickly. So I use a lot of nuts, toppings on things, in salads maybe. I like to use nuts in desserts to make them healthier, but a small amount goes a long way. Peanut gallery. Any questions?
What about dried fruits? Do they have the same value as a fresh fruit or no?
They are in fact more dense, and so half the amount will have, say for instance, I don't really have any great things here. If I were going to have grapes, I would have 1 cup would be considered a serving of grapes. A half a cup would be a serving of raisins, okay? So once you dry a fruit, you take out all of that water, the amount is going to seem smaller, but it's very nutrient dense, and the sugars are very dense. So once again, a small amount has a lot of good nutrition, but you can overdo it. Yeah. Cool.
How about a little snippet of information about gut biodiversity?
Oh my goodness.
Just skim the top.
Well, I think this is the most interesting thing. Interesting thing going on is what we're learning about the gut. And because we used to think that all of our stuff was happening up in our brain, all of our decisions, all of our neurotransmitters, all the mood, feeling stuff was brain-based. Now we know that we have a lot of neurotransmitters in our guts, not in our gut, and that in fact the neurotransmitter for serotonin, a lot of that is in your gut. So what's so important is fiber. Huh. Go figure, right? Fiber's back. But really keeping your flora, the bacteria that's in your gut, healthy. If you're on antibiotics, somebody gets put on a regimen of antibiotics. I like to get that person onto a probiotic, because that antibiotic is reducing the bacteria in their gut, changing the bacteria in their gut, and we want to get it reestablished to do its job. So we think that fruits and vegetables are by far your easiest way to give your gut what it likes, those fibers. The other food that's really a plus for our gut health are probiotics, yogurts, fermented foods like sauerkraut or pickles or kimchi or kombucha, things like that. So they have a little bit of bacteria activity. We benefit from eating those foods. the fast food diet isn't so good for our guts, right? It's a lot of high fat and a lot of processed foods. And this is the stuff that sort of makes it not such a diverse amount of bacteria. It changes the bacteria. So fresh foods, fermented foods, things like that, really good. And the other thing, those fiber foods, I know I'm joking, but really, things that keep you moving. I know it's really important the older we get to try to stay ahead of constipation and not take the different supplements that are out there. Instead, do it with food. And that even holds true for vitamin and mineral supplements. We now know that you get so much more benefit out of eating them as foods than you do something that comes out of a jar. So, yeah, good old gut bacteria. People that have a lot of IBS or gut troubles, sometimes it's linked with stress. And that's where it gets so interesting with these neurotransmitters, right? If you're all stressed out and your guts aren't working right. So we have a lot to learn. That's the thing about nutrition. It's a young science, and it's an incomplete science, and it isn't even very holistic, because we don't eat vitamins and minerals, we eat food. And so what we're looking for is a healthy lifestyle, and a healthy nutrition lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, the latest, greatest power bars or any of that stuff. Really, the best food is probably how our grandparents ate. And we've gotten further and further from the best qualities that food can offer. And so that's one thing we're gonna try and promote here at the Mustard Seed, is eating foods in their close to nature form, and getting the goodness straight from the, we'll get it from the grocery store. We're not gonna dig it up very many gardens until we've got something growing across the street. Anything else?
You're amazing.
So none of these people here at the Mustard Seed really know much about my cooking, but other people you could ask. It's not too bad. So I'm really looking forward to being able to start making things and inviting people in and enjoying their company and hearing what you like. On January 25th, we're having an event called Snack and Chat, and it's going to be right in the dining room, and I'm going to make some different foods for people to try. I want to make my chicken salad, see what you think about that. Have some breakfast cookies out there, have some peanut butter yogurt dip, see what you think about that. And hear from you what kind of foods you would like to see at the Mustard Seed, and what kind of meals you're accustomed to eating. And so we can be creating a program that will really serve you. And with that, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to meeting you. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Carolyn. And before you all go, we will be having some other community forums coming up early in the new year, but I'm not going to announce the dates for those yet to give you time to digest this episode. But we will be having Stephanie Love from the Pierce County. She's the Human Services Coordinator, and also Daniel Birdsall. Those dates will be announced in our newsletters, on our website, and on our Facebook page. Thank you for joining us. It's been a lot of fun today, and we hope you learned something as well as had a bit of a laugh. Bye.